Okay, so hi Sean. Yeah,
Hello.
so in the previous lesson we talked about conditionals. So if I could go through a quick run through, right? Conditionals, um if we don't have if we just have a Python program with just variables, then it's going to execute every single line, right? But if we have conditionals, then we can control the flow of the program, and conditionals will tell Python to execute certain lines based on some conditions. So in this example, right, the Python execute line 1, asking the user for their favorite animal. Then after the user input, right, Python will execute line 2, right, printing I also like whatever the user input, exclamation mark. Then line 3 is blank, then you go to line 4, and if the user's input was animal, right, then the condition at line 4, animal equals cat, right, with a double equal sign, is going to hold true. We use a double equal sign because single equal sign is reserved for assigning a new value to a variable, correct? Yeah, so if the condition held true, right, then you'll execute line 5. And the line 5, you see there's an indentation indicating that the print meow is within the conditional, right, within this condition. So line 5 will only execute if the condition is true, right? And if the condition is not true, then line 5 will not be executed. And instead, line 7 will be executed because line 7 is inside this else block. The else block is actually optional, right? It can or cannot be there. It's optional. You can put it there or not. So in this example, if the user input cat, right, the cat is typed in by the user, then you say, I also like cat, meow. Otherwise, if the user input dog, it says, I also like dog, not meow. So if the user's input was dog, right, which is not equal to cat, then you execute line 7. But if the user's input is cat, then execute line 5. Right? Okay, can you remember? Okay. So we learned that we can chain multiple conditions, right? So in this case, if you write if a condition, if, right, standing for else if another condition, and so on until the final one, you can put else there if you want. Then it's going to check each condition sequentially. Okay, so you check the first one, followed, and then by the second one and the third one, and if any one of them is true, then you execute that block and you skip the rest. Okay. Okay, then we learned that conditionals, they don't just have to be equality, right? They can be like less than equals to or less than and stuff. And we learned that if you want to check multiple conditions, then one way is to do a nested if statement like that, right? The if statement within the if statement, right? But another way is to use the and keyword to combine two conditionals, and only if both A and B are true, then the boolean A and B is true. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So previously we did this exercise, and then we went through exercise of asking the user for their age, and if their age was above 18, we said enjoy the M18 movie. Otherwise, we say sorry, you're underage. And yeah, so this was the solution. So do you understand this code? Is it familiar?
Yes.
Okay, then so the int here is important for converting the user's input to a number. Right? And if you want to ask the user for their year of birth instead, then you can calculate the age using 2022 minus the year of birth. Okay. So then from there, we had enough knowledge to build a BMI calculator, and on top of the BMI calculator, right? So this one was in the details for this is in the video, right? But it's in the video I posted. So you can see over here, there's a if else conditional statements, right? And so depending on the user's BMI, we can tell them whether they are underweight, overweight, or normal weight, right? Okay, so that one can right? Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. So today we're going to talk about for loops and lists. So usually this is one of the harder topics, for loops especially, right? And usually it's left for one of the last few lessons, but I think it's good to get early exposure as well, so that you can have more time to familiarize with it. Then after that, there's a topic of functions. Yeah, so let's jump into it. So first of all, right, what is list? Let's say you have right now we can create a variable which is kind of like a cardboard box where we can store information inside and we can retrieve it anytime we want in the program. But what if we want to store multiple variables, right? What if we want to store a whole bunch of students' names, right? And we want to is there a more organized way of doing it besides creating multiple variables? And the answer is yes, you can use a list. So a list is it's like a collection of variables, basically a list of variables, hence the name. So okay, if I think it's good to use the replit over here. Let me just do this. Okay, so we'll not be using, so right now I'm in the shell, right, where we type lines of code one by one. So if I write x equals to 5, print x, I press enter, it prints 5. Okay, so I'm in the console right now. All right. So if I want to create a list, I write the name of the list, right, just like a variable, just a variable name, follows the same conventions, and then I set equals to, but instead of writing a single value over here, like 5 or blah, instead of writing a single value, I use square brackets. So I have an open and close square bracket, and within the square bracket, I write the elements of the list I want, right, separated by commas. So let's say I want to store 4 elements, 1, 5, 2, and 3. Then I write 1, 5, 2, 3, 3 without the comma. Okay. Then I press enter. Now if I print my underscore list, then you see that Python has printed the list of elements like this, right? Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense so far. So the spacing over here, Python put for me just to make it neater, but the spacing doesn't matter. You can include them when you define the list. It doesn't matter whether there's spacing or not. Yeah. So now what if I want to access the first element of the list? Then I can use something called indexing. So I'll use print, I'll type, let's say I want to access the first element of the list. Then after typing the list name, right, the variable name, I use the square brackets, right, and inside the square brackets, I put something known as the index. So if I want to access the first element, it will correspond to index 0, right? So if I press enter, then I see it has printed the first element of the list, which is 1. Okay. Then if I want to access the second element, I use index 1 and you print 5. If I want to access the third element, I use index 2 and you print 2. Okay, so far?
Yes. Wait, why? Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why is it like when you print like my list 1, then it becomes 5?
Oh, it's because the my list is a list with elements 1, 5, 2, and 3, right? So the first element is 1, second element is 5, third element is 2, fourth element is 3. So when I print my list with the square brackets 1, this is known as the index. The index 1 corresponds to the second element.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so it's like
So it's
counting.
it's like start from 0 lah.
Correct, yes. So you start counting the items in the list from 0. So yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, great. Good that you're asking questions. So if I print index 3, right, it corresponds to the fourth element, right? So can you guess what the output is going to be?
3.
Correct, very good. So so this when you have a list and an index like that, it's just like a variable like that. So if I print my list index 0 plus my list, let's say index 1 times, let's say 3, right? Can you guess the output of this code? So I'm accessing the index 0, which is the first element, plus index 1, which is the second element, times 3.
Hmm.
It's okay if you get it wrong. Yeah, just give it a
It,
try.
it's always multiply first,
Yeah, multiply first.
right? Then
Your
it's 11.
um
Is
I
it?
multiplied by 3 over here,
Oh,
so
oh, sorry.
it's fine.
Wait. Oh, okay. Sorry. 16.
Yeah, very good. So it prints 16, and the reason is because it's essentially saying print 1, right? Because my list index 0 is the value 1, plus my list index 1 is the value 5 times 3. Okay, it's essentially saying this, right?
Yeah.
All right, okay. So yeah, so then yeah, so then what if I want to change the elements in the list? I can do it just like how I change variables, right? So I type my list, then the index that I want to change equals to 2. So okay, so if I delete this first and I print my list, right? Just for a more clear comparison. Right now the list is 1, 5, 2, and 3, right? But if I change the first element, right, by using index 0, and I set it equals to 2, then now if I print my list, then it'll say, you see that the first element has changed from 1 to 2. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe let's give it a try. If I change, let's say, my list index 1 equals to my list index 3 minus 2, then if I print my list, can you guess what the output is going to be?
Uh,
It's going to be 4 numbers. You can try to guess the 4 numbers.
oh, there are 4 numbers.
Yeah, because it's going to print a list like this, like that.
Oh,
Okay, so I'm changing the index 1, right? Which is I'm changing away the 5 to something else.
okay. Fine.
Yeah,
Because
I changed the
uh,
index 1.
because so the list is 2, 1, 2, 3, is it?
Correct, very good.
Because
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, very good. So it's 2, 1, 2, 3 because I changed the index 1, this 5, number 5, I changed it to the index 3, which is this one minus 2. So it becomes 3 minus 2, so I change it equals to 1. So that's a bit of a trickier example, and you got it. Okay,
Okay.
very good. Okay, so this slide over here illustrates what the index corresponds to. So the index 0 is the first element, so on. So it starts counting from 0. And in coding, right, this is sometimes known as zero indexing. So this is sometimes known as, programmers count from 0 lah. Yeah. So so later on I'll have some exercises for you to try. But for now, let's understand the concept of length first. So if I want to, so let's say I create a list, right? Called new list equals to 3 some elements, right? They can repeat, they can be the same numbers like that. Okay, then then what happens if I want to find out the length of the list? I can use the length command. So if I print, right, I print the length of the new list. So I write the print statement, right? And inside the print statement, inside the round brackets, I'll put length, and then I have a new round bracket. And inside the length, I put the name of the list I want to find the length of. So if I print this, then you see it's 8 because this list has 8 elements. Make sense so far? Okay. So if I change the list, right, to let's say I change it to like this, right, just like that. Then if I print the length of the list again, can you guess what the output is going to be?
4.
Correct. Yeah, very good. Because now this is the new length of the list. So it prints the current length of the list. Yeah. So okay, then now the question is, what if I want to access the last element of this list? Okay, so let me just set the list back to equals to this long list to follow the example over here. So what if I want to access the last element of the list? Do you know what index is going to be? If I want to access the number 6 at the back, do you want to index? Do you know what index to put?
7.
Correct. And why is it 7? It's
Because it
because,
starts from 0.
yeah, so it starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this 7, right, is also the length of the list minus 1, correct? Yeah. So if I print like that 7, right, but I can do length of the new list minus 1, and that will also print the last element. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And now the added benefit, right, is now if the length of the new list changes, right? Let's say it changed to this, okay? So now the length of the list is 4. Then if I try to print the last element using index 7, then that's an error because now the length of the list has changed already. So the last element is index 3 instead of index 7. But if I use the code that is a length of new list minus 1, then it correctly prints length of the last element of the list, because the length of the new list has recomputed, right? To be the length of the list is now 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. So it's index 3. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So this length of new list is an easy way to calculate the index for the last element. Make sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at the graphic over here, in a list of length 8 has indices 0 to 7. So you can use this to access the last element of a list. Okay so far?
Yeah.
Okay, and so Python actually simplifies this such that if we want to, so if we have new list equals to this, and if we want to access the last element, Python just allows us to use index -1 instead of the writing out the full length of new list -1. So if I print -1, then I get the last element, which is 6, right? If I print -2, then I get the second last element, which is 2. And if I print its new list index -3, can you guess what it's going to be? It's the third last element of the list, because -3.
Oh, 9.
Correct, very good. Yeah, so it's 9. So that's known as negative indexing. So in this graphic over here, you see that indices 0 to 7, right? If you put negative number in the index, then it's going to run backwards. So it's going to count backwards. All right. Yeah, most of the time, the main takeaway is this idea, because what I'm trying to get at is the concept of how to think computationally lah, how to think in a logical manner rather than the syntax exactly, rather than the exact syntax. So yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so there are ways to add to a list also. So let's say I have a list I call short list equals to the elements 1 and 2. Then if I want to if I want to add an element to the back of it, so if I print short list, right now it's going to be just 1 and 2, but if I want to add element to the back of it, I can use short the list name, right, dot a full stop append. Append is a method that would add an element to the back of the list. So if I append the number 3, right, and I print short list now, then it's going to be 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and I can add list has the benefit of adding different variable types also. So I can append Qianhao over here, right? And then let's say I want to append Sean at the back also. Then if I print short list, then I get 1, 2, 3 Qianhao and Sean, right? Make sense? Right. So append will add it to the back. Yeah, then if I want to delete elements of a list, then I can use the delete keyword. So okay, I'll just bring this over a little bit. So if I want to delete elements of a list, let's say I want to delete the index 1. So I'll use the del keyword space short underscore list index 1. Then when I press enter, then now if I print short list again, you'll see that the index 1, right, has disappeared, right? Your element 2 has disappeared, right? From this line to this line.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. So right now it might feel quite arbitrary, like, wait, why if I want to add to the list, I use a dot append, then why if I want to create a list, then I use equals, and why if I want to delete, then I use the delete keyword. It'll feel quite arbitrary for some time, but yeah, just actually deleting and these things, usually when you want to search out the specific syntax, then you can Google it. So personally, when I tried to write these slides, right, I also for some time I also forgotten how to delete items from a list. So I also Googled to find out this answer. But the key takeaway from learning programming, right, is more of computational thinking, more of the logic behind it, of how you can write programs to do write an algorithm to do some tasks rather than the exact syntax. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so lastly, right, if let's say I have a list of numbers, so let's say my list equals to 4, 6, 2, 1, 3. Then if I print my list, I'll see those numbers. But if I want to sort the list, right, then I'll print sorted. I'll call the sorted function, right, and my list. Then you see that Python has sorted it for me in ascending order. Okay. So these are just some things that you can do with Python list, right?
Okay.
So usually when you want to these are just some basic operations. There are a lot more operations you can do with it, but these are the foundational operations lah. All right. So if I can invite you to go over to the Replit, let's do some hands-on exercises now. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. So
Uh,
it's the same one as last time. So you can go on to Replit and go to the Teams section, and then you see that
is it hands-on Q1?
uh, hands-on
This hand-on Q1.
for list, is it? Are you seeing the list?
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Then list hands-on Q1.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, you can click on it. Then
Yeah, I think I'm inside.
okay, sure. Yeah, it says you have started the project. Okay. Okay, so yeah, you can read the instructions and tell me if you have any uh questions. Mhm. So to set it to equals, the value use the equal sign, just like in variables.
Oh, okay.
So you write my list, then you write equals, then you write the yeah, correct.
First,
That's very good. Yeah, correct. So then in the new line, so to access the index, perhaps it'll be useful if I pull up the slides. To access the index, you can use the square brackets. So the square brackets have two functions, right? One is to create the list, and the other one is to access the index of the list.
so, so I use square brackets instead.
Correct. So no, you're almost there already. No, the print has the round brackets, but after the list you put the square brackets. So yeah, correct. So yeah, then you open the square bracket and then closes.
Oh, okay.
All right. So here's the reference if you forget the syntax. Don't worry, the syntax it takes a while to get used to the syntax because usually in our daily sentences we don't write so many square bracket, round bracket, so many weird things on it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you go ahead and press run, then you can see it.
Oh, okay.
Make sense? Okay. So then
Yeah.
now the instructions. So now you're done with instruction 2. You can try to do instruction 3.
Okay. Do I need to put the output in the line? Don't need.
No need. Yeah. So
So I can just type.
correct. Yeah. So the left is the code that you write, and then when you press run, then the console will print it out. Yeah. Don't need to type the output.
Okay.
Mm. Very good. Yeah. So you go ahead. Yep. So now you see that line 2, right? It printed out the 1, right, which is the first element, and line 3, it printed out the 2, which is the third element, right, which is index 2, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're still confused, you can play around with the index to see, and you can predict what's going to happen. Then you see whether it matches your prediction. That's how you can learn also. Okay, so the last instruction, you can give it a try.
Last, oh,
Yeah, so in the instruction, you can scroll down to the fourth one.
the first item is 0, right?
Right, yeah. So the first item of
Okay.
the list is index 0.
Do I add within the round brackets?
Yeah, you add within the round brackets, that's right. So over here, at the line below instruction 4, I have an example over there. You can cross-reference.
Oh,
Mm.
it's like this.
Yeah, correct. Very good. So you press
Oh, yeah.
run, and you see that it prints 7. And you understand why?
Yeah,
It,
it's because the second, wait, no, the fourth index
mm,
times 2 plus the first one.
mm. Yeah, it's the fourth element, right? Times 2
Oh,
plus the first one. So when you say fourth index, right, then people might usually fourth index we mean index number 4 lah, which would be the fifth element, which doesn't exist. So that's
oh,
just a bit of terminology. Yeah, but it's okay. You get the idea. You can get
okay,
the idea, then can already. Okay, so very good. Then you
okay,
can press submit and move on to the next lesson.
okay.
So there's a next question. Yeah.
Next, wait, do I go to hands-on Q2?
Yeah, list hands-on Q2. Correct.
Okay, okay, I'm inside already.
Okay, great. Yeah, you need to create the variable before you print it. Correct. Then inside the round brackets of the print, you put the length of. So instead of writing the list name, if you try to run this, then you realize, they say that there's no list name.
Do
Yeah,
I write
correct.
new list? Oh,
Correct,
okay,
correct. Yeah, because just the list name is just saying the name of your list. Yeah. Okay. You try to press run. Okay, yeah. You're missing
equal sign.
no, you're missing a round bracket. So the round brackets, they
Oh,
must come in pairs, right? So you open one at the
okay,
print statement, they must close one as well.
okay,
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. So if you uh now you see the instruction tree, right? Change the new list by editing the code you wrote in step 1. So you can try to edit the code.
oh, okay.
Mm.
Uh, wait, do I need to put print again?
As in what I'm trying to get at is you edit the line 1 of your code to change the length of the list, to change the list itself. Like, at line
Oh,
1 you wrote,
oh, okay. This is not the delete or the appending thing.
yeah, it's not, yeah, not yet there yet.
Okay.
Well, you can actually, but yeah, correct. So that's what I'm trying to get at. You can also do it if you do the append and thing, that works too. You can demonstrate the concept. But yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, that is the goal that I'm trying to.
Press
Okay.
run again.
Yeah, so you see that now you deleted a 1 away, right? So now the length is 7 instead, right? So the
Yeah.
length of the new list will always calculate the length of this list. Okay, so yeah, then yeah, so you are done with this section. Okay, can. Okay,
Okay.
then you can move on to the next one.
Now I go on to Q3.
That's right.
I'm inside. Oh, okay. This one, the second question need to put print. Do I need to put print?
The second instruction, yeah, you need to put the print length of new list minus 1.
So it's like every time I want to change something to the list, I have to put print.
Every time you want to change something to the list, or you mean
As in like every time you want to move on, you have to put print.
no, not necessarily. You can do the like Python will automatically run from line 1 to line 2 to line 3 to line 4 and so on. So you can write the print just tells you to print to the console on the right hand side. It's like the
Oh,
output of the code.
oh, I
So
see.
yeah, if you don't write print, then you don't see anything output. So the print is a way for the program to feed back to you lah, basically. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
Now I press run.
yeah. So you see that it's in fact index 4, right?
Yeah.
So now I want you to access the last element of the use using this index. So yeah. So I want to see it print the last element of the list. So you have correctly printed the length of the list minus 1, but you have printed the index basically. So now you get what I'm trying to get.
Uh,
Like I want you to access index 4 of this list, right? Now
oh,
it's
is
printing
it
out 4.
minus 2? Yeah.
No, not quite, not quite. So right now, this is the index. Like right now, it prints out 4, right? But I want you to access index 4 instead of printing out index.
Uh, uh,
This.
wait, I,
Okay, so right
uh,
now, if I'm editing the code, right now you're printing like 4 basically, but I want you to access the I want you to access this 4, this index 4 of the list.
oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the answer, right? Like,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
new list.
So yeah, but instead of hard coding the 4 inside, right? You put this length of new list minus 1 inside the square bracket.
Oh, okay.
Mm, yeah, yeah. So actually, what I'm trying to say is that you put this thing, right? This thing that I'm highlighting, you put it inside the square brackets of the index. So like you print new list, then you inside the square brackets over here, right? You put what you
Oh,
have
okay,
wrote.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I'll explain why that's the motivation later on.
okay. Sorry.
It's fine, it's fine.
Okay, like that, right?
Yeah, correct. So if you press run, then okay, so it prints 4, right? From line 2, so line 1 it creates the list. Line 2 it calculates the length of the list minus 1, which is 5 minus 1, which is 4. So it prints 4 to the screen. Line 3 it also prints 4 to the screen, right? Then now it prints the new list, right? Indexed this this length of new list minus 1, which is the value 4. So it's essentially this is saying essentially your line 4 is doing print new list index 4, which is the fifth element of the list, which is the last element of the list. Make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
So yeah, so if I change the line 4, right? If I change it to -2, can you guess what the output is going to be? The three numbers is going to output.
Uh,
Okay, so the length of new list, right? -2. First of all, what's this highlighted value going to be?
-2. Is it 3?
Correct. Yeah. So because the length of the list is going to be 5, right? So length of new list is 5. So 5 minus 2 gives you 3.
Yeah.
Then
3.
new
Oh,
list.
that is the answer. Then the next one is 4.
Correct. So that's how you sequentially analyze the thing. So if you look at this code, right, it might be quite daunting to see at first, but you see, okay, I'm printing the new list indexed at this, whatever is in the in the square brackets, right? Whatever is inside the square brackets. So what is the value inside the square brackets? They mentally calculate, oh, it's the length of the list, which is 5 minus 2. The value inside the square brackets is 3. So I'm accessing index 3, which corresponds to the fourth element, which is number 4. So if you press run, then you see that it prints. You press run, then yeah, press run.
Okay.
Then you see it prints 444. Okay. Right?
Okay.
Okay. So now if you try to edit the length of the list to something else, I try to edit the list to, let's say, add some additional values with maybe, yeah, sure. Then if you press run again, then you see that yeah, do you understand why it's this way?
Cause like there are two more, right?
Mm-mm. Yeah. So if okay, so if I delete line 3, right, and let's say I change line 4 back to length of new list -1. Okay, so let's say I put another line over here, accessing index 4. So if I press run,
Oh, okay.
yeah, sorry, you had a question.
Oh, no. I was just gonna say the output. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So okay, if you're going to guess the output, maybe I change it up a little bit. Okay, you want to guess the output now? If I change it to like that. You can guess one number at a time. So there's
Eh,
mhm.
Wait, is the third line like not relevant or something? I think.
The third line. Um, yeah, the third line will output something to the screen. So the
Oh, okay. You just want me to get the output from the fourth line, right?
yeah, you can say the output from the entire program, which means that like
Oh, okay.
in this case
Okay.
there's three numbers that are going to be outputted.
The second line is 7, the third line is 3, and then the fourth line is
Very
7,
good.
right?
Yeah, very good. So if you press run, then you can see that in fact it is 737.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, makes sense. So I think you have understood quite clearly. So especially the last, so the first two is the first two output is quite simple, but the last one, do you understand what's going on?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So you're calculating the index, basically. Yeah. So this kind of flexibility is something that coding would give you, and there's a lot of interesting behavior that you can get lah. Yeah. Okay, so very good. Then why not you move over to the fourth question now?
Okay. Hmm. I'm inside.
Okay. I want you to, if you read the instructions, I want you to create the list called students. Okay, I think the list is called students. So instead of having new list as your variable name, right? You write, yeah,
Oh,
that's right, that's right. Yeah,
okay.
that's what I
Uh,
mean by the list, the name of the list.
okay. Wait, then these names, they need the apostrophe.
Correct, correct. They need the quotes because they are strings. So if you remember the variables lesson, the numbers they don't need quotes, right? But the strings they need quotes.
Oh, okay.
The words need quotes. Yeah. If not, they'll be looking for a variable called Amy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Very good.
Okay.
Okay, so yep, now it says hello Charlie. If you
Oh,
say I
okay.
want a space between the Charlie and the hello, then you want to edit.
Uh,
Hmm.
is do I just add a space there?
You can try running, right? Close, but it still says hello
Oh, it's
Charlie
still the
because
same.
the right because the space in this is a space inside like the code, whereas you want a space inside the string. So when you
Oh,
can edit, right? The string is the things inside the quotes. So sure, that's one. Yeah, can that will work. So then you print, then you say hello Charlie. Um, but if you change the index, let's say instruction 3, right? You change it to another integer, right? So instead of 2, you put some other number. Yeah. Then you try to print, you try to run the program. It says hello Bob, right? So what if I want to insert the space between hello and Bob?
can I also add?
That works also, right? But then if you check, um, you can surely insert the space before all the names, but you can also insert the space at the hello after the hello.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense, right? So
Yeah.
you have two strings, right? If you want to insert the space, you can insert either one of them. So yeah, you want to go ahead and insert the space in the hello. Okay, so now you press run. Then
Oh,
regardless of whatever index you put, right? Correct. So regardless of whatever index you put, you change to index 0, right? You'll say hello Amy, change to index 1, you'll say hello Bob, and you change to index 2, you'll say hello Charlie. Okay?
okay.
Okay. So great. Yeah, and that's the fourth question. So yeah, you can go on to the fifth question now. Last time I used to bunch up all the questions into one lesson, but then I think it's easier to compartmentalize it so that yeah, so that's why it's all split up now.
Oh,
Mm, okay, you want to refer to the code again for the creating of a list?
oh yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine, it's fine. Yeah, as you get extract more and more, you realize that you're used to it. So now writing new list equals almost is automatic for you already. Very good. So that's line, yeah, okay. So yeah, very good. Print new list, then you can close the bracket, you can press run, then you see that your new list is printed out. Okay. Then
Okay.
you want to add elements to the back of the list.
Oh wait, I still need to put print new list, right?
Uh, no. For line 3, just have the just append only.
Oh, okay.
So line 3, um Yeah.
Okay. Is this okay? Yeah.
You need
I need to
yeah,
put print in the fourth line.
yeah, correct. You need to put print in the fourth line. But also the list that we created was called new list, not list underscore name.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The list underscore name I wrote there is because I don't know what name you're gonna put. So I just put list underscore name. Yeah, correct, correct. So you need to change it to the name that you assign to your list.
Okay.
Okay.
So I run it.
Actually, you don't need the append to in the fourth line. The append to is an action that modifies the list.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
yeah, yeah, makes sense, right? Does it
Oh
make
yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay,
So like in the fourth line, the new list is already append to.
correct.
Okay,
Because the third line is responsible for adding to the list. Yeah.
okay.
So remember that Python, it just now on the right hand side, I typed line by line, right? So on the left hand side, you think of each line as a command to Python. So in the first line, your command to Python was create a variable called new list and set it to equals to the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? A list of with values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the second one, so Python, after executing the first line, you go to the second line. Then the new command is to print the new list out onto the screen, which is why you see the screen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 appears. Then the third line, your command to Python is to tell it to add the 2 to the end of the list, right? But you haven't printed anything out to the screen yet. But that's what the fourth line is for. So the fourth line will be to print the updated list to the screen. So does that explain why, do you understand why you see 2 lists in the console?
Yeah, I
The
understand.
output makes sense, right? So if
Yeah.
I deleted if I if I deleted, let's say line 4, right? Then if I press run, then you see that it only output one list to the screen and there's no 2 at the back. It's because the only output, right? The only time we output to the screen is in line 2. Make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So it's sequential. So when line 2 was run, the Python hasn't appended 2 to the list yet. Right? Only after line 2 is run, then you run line 3. But by the time you run line 3, after that, nothing, you don't output anything to the screen, which is why you don't see the 2 at the end. Okay?
Okay.
So this is like procedural programming where you have line by line like that. Okay, makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so that's for appending, right? Then you can continue with the instruction 5 for deleting. Very good, very good. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, deleting index 3. Hmm. So does it make sense that
Yeah.
your fourth element has disappeared because it deleted index 3? Okay.
Yeah.
Then if you let's say change 3 to some you can do the sorted one also. Let's say you change 3 to some other index, then you see that another element has disappeared. Some other element has disappeared instead of the fourth element.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Oh.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so I think the key one important thing to note is that perhaps you're a bit confused about what the printing does exactly, and what happens, how you get the right hand side. The right hand side is basically the output of the program, and how you output to the program, how you output, how your program outputs to the screen on the right hand side is through print statements. So print statements is like your way of peering into the data that is being kept by the program. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So you create variables, you create lists that stores information, but to see the information, right, for the programmer to see, you print it out to the screen, right? Which is why we print it out. We say we print it out to the console, which is on the right hand side. So if you remove all the print statements, right, if we remove all the print statements, right, which is line 2, line 4, line 6, and 7, then sure enough, you won't see anything on the screen, but the operations are still being performed. So yeah, does that make sense? So print is not an update lah. So if I remove, let's say, line 2, I remove the print statements, right, until except for the last one. If before you press run, can you guess what the output is going to be?
Uh,
It's going to be a list.
yeah, two.
Sorry.
Is it 1, 2, 2, 3, 5?
Correct. Very good. So if you press run, right, you press run,
Okay.
then you see is 1, 2, 2, 3, 5. And the reason is that lines 2 and lines 3, they modify the list, right? And although we don't print it out immediately, so we don't see the changes immediately, but the changes are still happening. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think just now you mentioned something like, do I need to, the print will like update it, is it? No, that's the print will not update the list. The print would display the current value of the list. But what updates the list is these append commands and these delete commands. All right. Okay. So yeah. So okay, I think maybe we can call it a day for today. Can then next lesson
Yes.
we'll cover for loops. Right?
Okay.
Okay. If not, that's all for today. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.